Last week, I painted the stealth suit cap and made him look more lifelike. It went from a cheap looking toy to a more high-end looking one. Check it out if you're interested. And today, I'm gonna work on the Black Widow figure from the same wave. Black Widow has had many looks throughout the Infinity Saga, and her look in the Winter Soldier is my favorite. That hairstyle is iconic, and in my opinion, that was Natasha at her peak. But just like the Captain America figure, this Black Widow figure is a re-release with some updated parts. This may not be my favorite look of hers, but the Avengers head is awesome. They really capture Scarlett Johansson's likeness from the first Avengers movie. Or is this the Age of Ultron look? And here's the comparison with my other Widows, starting with this one here. Okay, yes, this figure looks a bit creepy, but that's because that is a knockoff figure I painted a long time ago. It may not be perfect, but I'm glad I did it. It made me realize I could reshape faces using paint. Here's Endgame Black Widow. This figure still holds up pretty well in my opinion. I love everything about it. I can't say the same for Infinity War Widow though. Even though this is the same figure but with the vest on. This one didn't age well. And here's Snowsuit Black Widow. I really like this head sculpt, and I think I did a pretty decent job painting the face. Look how good this head looks on the black suit. This could be the ultimate MCU Black Widow figure. Except, her hair's kinda in the way. You can't really snap the head on. But the real question is this new figure better? Let's find out. Let's deconstruct this figure. There's an FAQ on the paint and brushes I use in the description box below. Okay, the short answer is no. Simply because this figure is near impossible to balance. The figure is top heavy and those tiny feet don't help. And speaking of legs, I appreciate that they finally disconnected the holsters from her belt. But the range of motion is still pretty limited. Is the torso new? I think the arms are, but they don't look that good in my opinion. The bicep swivels make the arms look very segmented. But on to the positives. These new faces are great. They look just like Scarlett Johansson. But I don't love the reused outdated Winter Soldier hair. It has this chunky clay look to it. The Avengers hairstyle is much better. The strands are more well defined. And because of the shorter length, it doesn't limit the head's movement as much. I have mixed feelings on the guns. On one hand, extra accessories are always welcomed. But why not just make the guns detachable from the holsters? It looks a little silly with 4 guns on her. And the hands can't actually hold the guns, so the guns may just randomly fall off. The gauntlet effects are nice though. Overall, this is a decent Black Widow figure, but I personally prefer the snowsuit and endgame versions a bit more. That said, these new heads look really good. I may not be able to fix the posing issues, but I should be able to make the figure look even better. So, hello, this is Ken. I like making things. Whether it's repainting my figures or making diorama displays, I love making things look awesome. My goal is to elevate my figures so they can shine on my display. Join my DIY venture as I ask myself the same question every week. Can I make it? Starting with the suit. Is there anything wrong with it? Not really. It's just a black suit after all. But when I look at reference images, I can see that the suit is made out of various kinds of fabric with different finishes. So let me mattify the suit first by going over it with the black. The Winter Soldier suit has these satin panels down the sides. They have this rubbery shine to them. The matte varnish should do the job. I'm going to use this to define the suit more, to make the various elements pop. That includes the belt and holsters. I'm also going to apply the varnish over her boots as well. The goal is to give the impression that her suit is made out of various materials. And to make things pop even more, I'm going to add the glossy varnish over the straps on the thighs and the gauntlets on the arms. Okay, I have some leftover varnish, so let me add a thin layer over the gloves as well. Alright, just some finer minor details left. Gotta paint those little buckles silver. And for his zipper, I'm gonna use a dark silver. I don't want it to be too distracting. I don't remember seeing the zipper in the movie. Okay, one last thing to paint here. The guns. Since these aren't detachable, all I can do is give them a metallic finish so they don't blend into the holsters. I'm gonna do the same to the individual guns as well. First, a thin coat of dark silver for that metallic shine. And then I'm gonna dry brush a little bit of silver here and there to make it pop a bit more. On to the faces. I love these faces. It's kinda crazy how good the face sculpts are nowadays. The thing that bothers me the most is the Winter Soldier hair. It looks right, but also off at the same time. In the movie, the hair is actually quite flat at the top. So let me see if I can flatten it by sanding it down. Okay, nope, that didn't do much. Let me use a Dremel instead. I have to be careful though. I don't want to hurt myself. Gotta make sure I'm gripping onto the head firmly and making sure my fingers won't get caught. The Dremel can move in unexpected ways if I'm not paying attention. Okay, to be honest, I don't know if this is gonna work. I figured if I mess up, I still have the Avengers head and the other knockoff Winter Soldier head. So I don't feel as nervous testing this out. What I'm trying to do is to get rid of those two bumps and make the top of the hair flatter. Okay, that actually took much longer than I thought. Even though I know I shaved off quite a bit, it still looks relatively the same. Except everything is smoothed out at the top now. So let me try and add some definition back with this smaller bit. Starting with the middle part. Let me run this back and forth down the middle. And let me extend the strands upwards over the smoothed out areas to make the transition a bit more gradual. Okay, I think I'm happy with the top half. What about the bottom half? Even though it's quite accurate to how the hair was in the movie, I don't love how connected all the strands are. It just doesn't translate that well in toy form. So let me see if I can separate the strands a bit. Okay, this is what I got. Turns out it's actually easier to cut with a knife. I'm gonna stop modifying the hair. I feel like I'm about to ruin it. So let's paint. Starting with the shading color. The issue with the hair is that it looks blocky and lacks definition. So I gotta use paint to add those strands back in. But red hair is not easy to paint. On one hand, it looks orange, but it's also not really. It's more like a vibrant brown. But it can't be too vibrant, otherwise it'll just look unnatural. So yeah, I struggle with this hair. Again. As for the face, she got this sunburnt look to her in the movie. Or was it makeup? I don't know, but I remember being very distracted by the orange face. So I'm gonna try and emulate that here. But I don't want to make her face too orange, otherwise the body won't match. And to finish it off, I'm gonna add the smallest amount of shine to her hair and lips. Before I show you the before and after, let me work on the other head first. This one doesn't need any modifications. I just need to mattify and tone down the vibrant skin tone. The Avengers face to me has more of a reddish pinkish tone, so I'm gonna focus on that. I want the faces to give off different vibes. I want the Avengers face to feel a bit softer, and the Winter Soldier one to feel a bit tougher. Alright, moment of truth. Let's see if the heads look any better. Here's the Winter Soldier head. The hair can be a bit thinner in my opinion. What do you think? Here's the Avengers head. I love how this turned out. She's so beautiful. The orange hair is giving me Age of Ultron vibes. Alright, here's Black Widow all finished. The orange hair fits her Winter Soldier look much better. Her hair wasn't that red in the movie, Although not that obvious, I do think the flatter hair does look better. But the tips of the hair, I'm not sure. What do you think? As for the Avengers head, the original head is already pretty good, so the changes aren't that drastic. The matte suit does look better with this head in my opinion, and I really like the different finishes. They elevate the figure in a nice subtle way. If I had to pick, I would say the Avengers look is the better of the two, even though I personally prefer her Winter Soldier look more. It mostly comes down to the hair. The Avengers hair look much more realistic and it allows her to turn her head, but I do find that the short hair still gets in the way a little bit. But it is nice that I now have 3 of the original 6 Avengers. I hope they release new versions of the Avengers 1 Hawkeye and Hulk one day. Oh, speaking of Hawkeye, maybe they can do a Civil War Hawkeye and Black Widow 2-pack. I really like their look in Civil War, but I wonder if they'll be able to do her long hair justice. And if they do release a Civil War Black Widow, I do hope they figure a way to make her easier to balance and pose. I want to be able to recreate the superhero landing pose with her. Back to this Black Widow. How does it compare to my other Widows? I still don't know if there's a definitive best Black Widow figure. I still prefer the endgame body mold. That figure is much easier to pose and looks more natural in my opinion. The snowsuit figure is almost perfect. The only thing I don't love about it is how the arms flare out. Here's some more close-up comparisons. The new Winter Soldier head is definitely superior, but I'm still proud of what I did with the old one. It was one of my earlier customs, and these are the 2 best Natasha Romanoff faces out of all of them in my opinion. Okay, let's take some photos. I must admit, this figure was a pain to pose. She falls way too easily. I highly recommend using a stand or sticky tack when posing her. Otherwise, Black Widow is very photogenic. That face is gorgeous. There's like no bad angles for Natasha. So props to Hasbro for nailing Scarlett Johansson's likeness. Some of these photos look very lifelike, if you ignore the hair. These faces are like the size of a fingernail, so to be able to take such great close-up photos is amazing. Okay, part of it is due to the paint job, but I didn't really alter the faces that much. It was mostly just getting rid of the plastic shine and the flat tones. The face sculpts did most of the work. It'll be interesting to see what action figures look like in another 5 years or so. They've made significant improvements to the actors' likenesses. I hope they improve the body mold soon. Do you like what I've done to Black Widow? Let me know down below. I'm satisfied, but I want to do more. Black Widow deserves more. So, I've had this idea in my head for quite a while now. I've always wanted to recreate the Winter Soldier movie poster. I love that poster so much. And now I have all 3 main characters. They actually don't share any scenes together in these outfits, so it wouldn't make total sense to do the battle scene in the middle of the street, or the final battle scene in the helicarrier. However, I won't have that issue if I'm recreating the movie poster. So here's my plan. I'm gonna have one helicarrier falling in the sky, and I'll have one already crashed for the figures to stand on. Where's the third one, you ask? Good question. I decided to only have 2 because I didn't want the scene to look too busy. The focus should be on the 3 characters. Real challenge is keeping the 3 figures upright, especially Black Widow. Fortunately, I was able to balance all 3 by having them lean against each other. You may notice that the helicarrier base is at an angle. I could have easily made it flat so everyone's standing on an even surface, but that would look too static and boring. I want to give the impression that the helicarrier has crashed, and by giving it a slant, I can elevate Bucky at the back, so he doesn't get blocked by Cap and Widow. And because the surface is uneven, it really makes it look like Black Widow is walking due to the way her knee is bent. What do you think of my helicarrier display? I love it. It's relatively simple, but it just looks so dynamic and tells a story, just like the original movie poster. This display sums up the movie perfectly. Another thing I love is that these 3 figures are now elevated as a group. To be honest, these figures aren't that impressive individually. I had doubts where I wondered if I really need these 3 figures, especially Bucky. I got him because I figured they would re-release the Stealth Suit Cap one day. And they did. And I have to say, as a group, and especially on this display, these 3 now look like premium figures, or like an actual movie poster coming to life. They just look so much more 3-dimensional and awesome. I love it so much. The knockoff Widow can now retire. Maybe I'll put the Avengers Widow head on that body, for the Avengers display when that day comes. Alright, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Give it a like and subscribe to see more content like this. And as always, stay inspired and I'll see you next week. I can make it, so can you.